Ladies and gentlemen, in this fast-paced world, we often find ourselves swept away by the currents of stress, anxiety, and the demands of daily life. We react without thinking, caught in the storm of emotions and external pressures. But imagine for a moment the ability to remain grounded, calm, and centered, no matter the chaos around you. Is it possible? Yes, it is. And the key lies in the mastery of the mind. Self-awareness is where the journey begins. You see, most of us are not fully conscious of the forces that shape our reactions. Beneath our rational thoughts lies an intricate web of unconscious impulses, fears, desires, and unresolved conflicts that influence how we respond to every situation. When we take the time to examine our inner world and become aware of these impulses, we gain the ability to step back before reacting. Self-awareness empowers us to choose our responses, rather than being controlled by the automatic triggers of our unconscious mind. It is through this awareness that we begin to find the space for calm. But this journey doesn't stop at awareness. We must learn to integrate the opposites within us. Life is not simply a series of pleasant experiences. It is also filled with challenges, conflicts, and discomforts. And yet, true calmness does not arise from avoiding these struggles, but from embracing them. Our psyche, like life itself, is composed of opposites: joy and sorrow, strength and weakness, certainty and doubt. To achieve inner peace, we must not reject these opposing forces, but accept them, integrate them into our being. By embracing both our light and shadow, we learn to hold ourselves steady in the face of any situation, for we know that calm is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of acceptance. And finally, to truly train our mind to remain calm, we must cultivate inner silence. In the noise and clamor of the world, it is all too easy to lose touch with our true selves. Yet deep within each of us lies a wellspring of stillness. It is in this stillness that we find clarity and perspective. By regularly returning to this quiet center, whether through meditation, reflection, or simple moments of pause, we train ourselves to access a place of calm, no matter what storms rage outside. This inner silence is not an escape, but a sanctuary, where we can reconnect with our deeper wisdom and respond to life's challenges with grace. The road to inner calm is not quick or easy, but it is a journey worth taking. When we embrace self-awarenesses, integrate the opposites within us, and practice accessing our inner stillness, we begin to master our emotional responses. And in doing so, we become not mere victims of circumstance, but architects of our own inner peace. So, train your mind, dear friends. Practice these steps daily, and you will find that, in any situation, you can remain calm, centered, and resolute. To cultivate a mind that remains calm in any situation, the first and most fundamental step is developing self-awareness. Self-awareness, in the context of mental and emotional resilience, is the practice of becoming intimately familiar with the inner workings of our mind, particularly those unconscious forces that drive our behaviors and reactions. In many ways, self-awareness serves as the key to unlocking control over our responses and enables us to choose our reactions, instead of being ruled by automatic patterns formed in the depths of the unconscious. At its core, self-awareness involves an active exploration of our thoughts, emotions, and the oft-hidden beliefs that shape how we interact with the world. Most of us navigate life in a reactive manner, responding instinctively to situations without truly understanding why we feel the way we do. It is a knee-jerk response to external events that are filtered through the lens of our personal experiences, past traumas, unresolved conflicts, and even societal conditioning. This unconscious processing often leads to exaggerated or disproportionate emotional reactions that are not necessarily in line with the actual circumstances at hand. If we are to remain calm in stressful situations, we must break free from this automatic pattern of reacting and instead cultivate the capacity to respond thoughtfully and deliberately. To begin developing self-awareness, we must first recognize the power of the unconscious mind. The unconscious is not simply a void or a collection of random thoughts. Rather, it is a deeply structured part of our psyche that houses repressed memories, unresolved emotions, and patterns of behavior that we often fail to consciously acknowledge. These unconscious forces have a profound impact on how we experience and interact with the world, influencing everything from our emotional responses to our relationships and personal decisions. Without awareness of these forces, we are at the mercy of their hidden influence, unaware of how they subtly shape our daily experiences. Take, for instance, a situation where a person becomes overly angry or frustrated in a minor disagreement with a colleague. On the surface, it might seem that the frustration is simply a reaction to the current situation, the words spoken, the tone used, or the perceived disrespect. But a deeper examination reveals that the emotional response may stem from unresolved feelings of inadequacy or insecurity, rooted in past experience. Perhaps this person has encountered similar situations in their past, where they felt dismissed or unheard, and their current reaction is colored by these unresolved emotions. Without self-awareness, the person would be unaware of how past events are influencing their present state. Instead of simply reacting, self-awareness invites us to pause and question why we are responding in a particular way, allowing us to separate the present moment from past emotional baggage. This is where the practice of mindfulness becomes invaluable. Mindfulness, which is essentially the art of observing our thoughts and emotions without judgment, allows us to become aware of the present moment and the subtle ways our minds are conditioned to react. Through mindfulness, we can step outside of the immediate emotional response and examine the situation from a place of neutrality. When we do so, we often realize that our reactions are not as automatic or inevitable as they once seemed. This realization creates a space between stimulus and response, allowing us to choose how we want to respond rather than simply reacting in a habitual manner. Once we start developing the ability to observe our thoughts and emotions without judgment, we can begin the process of identifying and understanding the unconscious triggers that influence our reactions. These triggers can be vast and varied, ranging from deeply ingrained fears and anxieties to specific past experiences or even societal expectations. For example, a person may react with intense frustration when someone is late to a meeting, not because the lateness itself is so critical, but because it taps into a deeper fear of losing control or being disrespected. In this case, the emotional reaction is not a response to the external situation alone, but is deeply connected to an unconscious fear of being overlooked or undervalued. By becoming aware of this hidden fear, the individual can begin to untangle the emotional reaction from the actual event and start to choose a more measured response. Self-awareness also involves recognizing the different layers of our thoughts and emotions. Often, what we initially perceive as a simple reaction to an external event is a complex web of thoughts, memories, and feelings. For example, a seemingly trivial comment may trigger feelings of anger not because of the comment itself, but because it subconsciously reminds us of a similar situation where we were hurt or criticized. Understanding this complexity allows us to approach each situation with greater clarity, giving us the opportunity to act from a place of wisdom rather than reacting out of habit. However, this process of self-awareness is not a one-time event, but an ongoing practice. Just as a muscle needs regular exercise to grow stronger, our awareness of ourselves must be cultivated consistently. It requires a commitment to introspection, a willingness to observe and reflect on our thoughts and feelings without rushing to suppress or deny them. It also requires patience and self-compassion, for the process of self-discovery is often uncomfortable. We may encounter parts of ourselves that we would prefer to ignore, the hidden fears, insecurities, and unresolved emotional wounds. But it is only by facing these aspects of ourselves with openness and curiosity that we can truly understand our emotional responses and learn to manage them. Through this process, we begin to detach from the automatic emotional reactions that often drive us. Instead of being controlled by knee-jerk reactions to external events, we cultivate a state of mental clarity where we can observe and choose our responses with intention. The more we practice self-awareness, the more we become attuned to the subtle shifts in our emotional landscape, and the more equipped we become to remain calm in even the most challenging of situations. The second key to training your mind to stay calm in any situation lies in the integration of opposites within our psyche. Life, by its very nature, is a blend of contrasts, a dynamic interplay of light and dark, joy and sorrow, success and failure. If we are to develop true emotional resilience, we must learn not only to accept these opposing forces, but to integrate them harmoniously into our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. The integration of opposites requires a shift in perspective, one that embraces the full spectrum of human experience, rather than attempting to push away the difficult or uncomfortable aspects of life. Only through this process of integration can we achieve a balanced inner state, one that allows us to remain calm and centered in the face of external chaos. At a fundamental level, the human experience is shaped by contradictions. We encounter both happiness and sadness, love and hate, peace and conflict. It is easy to believe that emotional calm can only be achieved when we are free from distress, when life flows smoothly, and when all our desires are met. However, such a state of continuous harmony is rare and often unrealistic. True inner calm does not come from avoiding the inevitable challenges of life, but rather from learning how to respond to these challenges with equanimity. This is where the integration of opposites becomes essential. When we resist or deny parts of ourselves, we create internal conflict that undermines our peace of mind. For example, many people struggle with feelings of anger, shame, or fear and try to repress these emotions because they perceive them as negative or undesirable. This suppression, however, only leads to a greater internal tension. The more we push against our darker feelings, the more they manifest in ways that are difficult to control. Emotions like anger and fear are not inherently harmful. They are part of our natural response system, signaling to us when something is wrong or when we need to take action. The challenge lies in how we relate to these emotions. If we resist them or push them away, we fail to understand their message and can become overwhelmed by them. However, when we integrate these emotions into our awareness and understand their root causes, we can transform them into sources of strength and wisdom. This process of integration involves acknowledging and accepting the full spectrum of our emotional experiences. It means recognizing that no emotion, thought, or aspect of our psyche is inherently good or bad. They simply are. Fear, for instance, might initially feel like something to avoid, but it is an emotion that arises to protect us. When we experience fear, it alerts us to a potential danger, motivating us to take caution or prepare for a challenge. In this way, fear has a positive function, but only if we can relate to it without judgment or avoidance. If we accept fear as a natural and necessary part of life, we no longer need to react to it with panic or anxiety. Instead, we can observe it, understand it, and use it as a guide in making thoughtful decisions. By accepting fear, we transform it from a source of distress into a powerful tool for personal growth and wisdom. Similarly, the integration of opposites extends beyond emotions to our broader understanding of the self. Many people believe that they must be entirely positive, strong, and capable at all times in order to be successful or loved. This belief creates immense pressure and leads to a disconnection from the full range of human experiences. In reality, the integration of opposites requires us to embrace not only our strengths, but also our vulnerabilities. Just as we cannot fully appreciate light without darkness, we cannot fully appreciate strength without weakness, joy without sorrow, or peace without conflict. It is through the acceptance of our weaknesses, fears, and limitations that we become whole, and it is in this wholeness that we find true calmness. When we are comfortable with both our strengths and our vulnerabilities, we no longer fear the challenges that come our way. Instead of avoiding difficult emotions or experiences, we approach them with curiosity and confidence, knowing that they are all part of the human journey. This approach to life allows us to maintain a deeper sense of equanimity. Rather than being thrown off balance by the inevitable ups and downs, we become grounded in the understanding that all experiences, whether positive or negative, contribute to our growth. We realize that life is not about avoiding conflict or discomfort, but about navigating it with grace. Furthermore, the integration of opposites is not a one-time act, but a lifelong process. It requires ongoing self-reflection, self-compassion, and a willingness to confront the aspects of ourselves that we may find difficult or uncomfortable. As we grow and evolve, new opposites emerge for integration. We may face new fears, doubts, or uncertainties that challenge our sense of stability. But the process of integrating these challenges into our understanding of ourselves becomes easier as we practice it over time. The more we accept and integrate the full spectrum of our experiences, the more naturally we are able to respond to life's difficulties with calm and poise. One of the most profound aspects of integrating opposites is the realization that both the light and the dark within us have a role to play in our lives. Without light, there would be no shadow. Without joy, there would be no sorrow. By accepting the dualities within ourselves, we begin to see the interconnectedness of all aspects of our existence. This holistic understanding enables us to remain grounded and calm, regardless of the external circumstances. The more we integrate the opposites within ourselves, the more we realize that nothing is truly fixed or permanent. Emotions, like everything else in life, are temporary. By embracing both the highs and the lows, we develop the inner flexibility to remain steady no matter what life throws our way. The third key to training your mind to stay calm in any situation is the practice of inner silence. In our fast-paced, hyper-connected world, it can often feel as though we are surrounded by an endless cascade of distractions, noise, and external demands. From the constant hum of technology to the pressure of modern life, the mind is frequently bombarded by stimuli that prevent us from finding a sense of inner stillness. Yet it is precisely in this inner silence that we find the greatest potential for calmness, clarity, and emotional resilience. Learning to access and cultivate this inner silence allows us to step away from the noise of the world and reconnect with a deeper, more grounded part of ourselves. It is from this place of stillness that we can respond to the challenges of life with wisdom, clarity, and a sense of tranquility. Inner silence is not merely the absence of noise, but rather the presence of a focused, centered state of awareness. It is a mental and emotional state where the constant chatter of thoughts, worries, and distractions falls away, leaving us with a sense of peace and clarity. This silence is not something we impose upon ourselves. Rather, it is something that arises naturally when we quiet the mind and allow ourselves to become present in the moment. In this state, we are able to detach from the swirl of emotions and thoughts that typically guide our reactions, allowing us to approach any situation with a sense of calm, detachment, and intentionality. One of the primary reasons inner silence is so vital to maintaining calmness in stressful situations is that it provides us with a moment of pause. In our everyday lives, we are often caught up in a reactive mode, constantly responding to external stimuli without taking the time to reflect on our actions. We are driven by impulses, emotions, and habitual patterns of thought, which can lead to impulsive or disproportionate reactions in moments of stress. Inner silence creates a space between stimulus and response, allowing us to step back from the intensity of a situation and assess it with a clearer, more objective perspective. This pause is essential for cultivating emotional resilience, as it prevents us from being swept away by the turbulence of our emotions. Accessing inner silence requires a commitment to slowing down and being present. In the midst of our busy lives, it can be difficult to find the time and space to quiet the mind, but it is essential if we are to develop true emotional balance. This can be achieved through practices such as meditation, mindfulness, or even simply spending time in nature. These practices help to calm the mind, slow down the pace of our thoughts, and create an environment where inner silence can emerge. When we make time to engage in these practices regularly, we begin to create a mental habit of stillness that can be accessed whenever we need it most. Meditation is one of the most effective ways to cultivate inner silence. It involves focusing the mind on a single point of concentration, whether it is the breath, a mantra, or an image. As we meditate, we gradually become more aware of the fleeting nature of our thoughts, recognizing that they come and go like clouds passing through the sky. Through this awareness, we can learn not to become attached to our thoughts or emotions, but instead to observe them without judgment. This non-reactive awareness is the essence of inner silence. It is the ability to be present without being overwhelmed by the constant flow of thoughts, feelings, and sensations that arise within us. Over time, the practice of meditation teaches us to bring this inner silence into our everyday lives. As we become more attuned to the stillness within, we find that we are better able to respond to life's challenges with calm and composure. When faced with stressful situations, we are no longer at the mercy of our emotions and automatic reactions. Instead, we can pause, breathe, and access a state of mental clarity that allows us to choose our responses thoughtfully and intentionally. However, cultivating inner silence is not solely about meditation or structured practices. It is also about creating an inner attitude of openness and receptivity to the present moment. This requires letting go of the need for constant mental stimulation and control. We live in a culture that values productivity and constant engagement, and many of us feel uncomfortable in moments of silence or stillness. Yet, it is precisely in these moments that we can access a deeper connection to ourselves and the world around us. When we allow ourselves to experience moments of quiet, we create space for self-reflection, insight, and peace. Another key aspect of inner silence is the ability to detach from external distractions. In our modern world, we are constantly surrounded by noise, whether it is the chatter of others, the buzz of notifications, or the demands of our professional and personal lives. These external distractions often contribute to our sense of stress and overwhelm, making it difficult to find a sense of inner calm. Cultivating inner silence involves learning to filter out these distractions and focus inward. It is not about escaping the world, but rather about developing the ability to remain centered despite the noise that surrounds us. This detachment allows us to maintain a sense of clarity and focus, even in the most chaotic or stressful of environments. The practice of inner silence also helps us to become more aware of our emotions and reactions. When we are constantly caught up in the flow of thoughts and external events, we are often unaware of the subtle shifts in our emotional state. However, when we create space for silence, we become more attuned to the undercurrents of our feelings and can more easily identify when we are becoming agitated, anxious, or overwhelmed. This heightened self-awareness allows us to take proactive steps to maintain our calm, whether it is through deep breathing, mindfulness, or simply taking a moment to step away from a stressful situation. By regularly practicing inner silence, we cultivate the ability to recognize and manage our emotions before they escalate. Ultimately, inner silence is a tool that empowers us to navigate life's challenges with grace and composure. It is not about avoiding stress or conflict, but about developing the inner strength to remain centered and calm, regardless of external circumstances. When we can access inner silence, we are no longer slaves to our impulses or emotional reactions. Instead, we become masters of our responses, able to approach each situation with clarity, wisdom, and emotional balance. The practice of inner silence is not a one-time achievement, but a lifelong journey, one that requires patience, commitment, and a willingness to be present with ourselves. By making inner silence a priority in our lives, we open the door to greater peace, clarity, and emotional resilience, and we become better equipped to face whatever life may bring. In conclusion, the journey toward cultivating a mind that remains calm in any situation is not an easy one, but it is a deeply transformative and empowering process. By first developing self-awareness, we unlock the ability to understand the unconscious forces that drive our emotions and reactions, allowing us to choose our responses with intention instead of being at the mercy of automatic, habitual reactions. The second key, the integration of opposites, teaches us the vital lesson that peace does not come from avoiding life's challenges, but from embracing both the light and the dark aspects of our experience. By accepting and integrating these polarities, we cultivate a sense of emotional resilience that allows us to remain balanced no matter what life throws our way. Finally, through the practice of inner silence, we create the mental and emotional space necessary to step back from the noise of the world, access a place of stillness, and respond to life with clarity and composure. Together, these principles form a powerful foundation for emotional strength and inner peace. It is through continuous self-awareness, acceptance of our full human experience, and the cultivation of stillness that we learn to navigate the world with calm, no matter the storm. As we embrace these practices and commit to this path, we not only enhance our own well-being, but become a steady presence for those around us, True calmness comes not from avoiding life's challenges, but from learning to face them with presence, wisdom, and a grounded sense of inner peace. The more we train our minds to remain calm in the face of adversity, the more we cultivate a life of profound balance, clarity, and resilience. Thank you.